Hi, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic, and this is the Real Critic Roundtable, where African-American critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. And we're going to do all of that today. Today, we got to talk about a lot of movies, but before we do that, it is Black Music Month. So I want to take a moment to really talk about a segment that I've been doing for about the last 5 years, and it's called the Black Music Month movie moment. Now, it's been 25 years since Mary J. Blige's sophomore album, My Life. And while we are going to talk about the movie, I want to take a moment to talk about the artist. Yeah, she won 9 Grammy Awards, 4 American Music Awards, 12 Billboard Music Awards, but who's counting? I guess somebody, maybe she's counting, but somebody is counting. But she's also made her mark as an actor, receiving nominations, an Oscar nomination for playing Florence Jackson in the movie Mudbound. But this is Black Music Month. So you, in the moment is about music and movies. And so you're probably saying, okay, get to it. Well, her song, Mighty River, which she wrote along with Raphael Sadiq and Tara Stinson, was nominated for Best Song, Best Music Original Song. And while she didn't win, what is really, really clear is that the 411 is that Mary J. Blige has made her mark in music and on the big screen. So Mary J. Blige, a Black Music Month movie moment. That's my little segment for today. You know, we got to talk about the music. I mean, we could talk a lot about the music because just recently Her won an Oscar for her song. So, but I can't do all of my segments in this segment. Anyway, let me welcome my friends back to the table. I got Katia Woods from cupofsoulshow.com, and I have KB through the lens of Lady KB. KB, welcome to the show as usual.
Thank you for having me back, Reggie.
Yeah, always glad to have you back. I know you've been doing like one of these things, like whew, you've been working hard, girl. You've been working hard for the money. What you got working?
Whew, truly have I been working, but let me tell you, we're gonna get into a little bit later Netflix's new show called Sex Life, which is out today. But you can see all of my interviews with the creator and the cast. Those are out now on Nerdophiles. And then, I had some surprises. I adore. It caught me by surprise, but I adore Ted Lasso. My gosh, what a fabulous show. And I have some interviews coming out next month with some of the cast members from that as well. So that's what I've been working on.
You've been working, and when you say you adore Ted Lasso, what do I need to start watching this?
Please watch this show, Reggie. It is so
No, you
pure.
giving me another
It
one to
is
watch?
so pure. I mean, listen, first off, I'm a TV head, so I love films, but I love TV. So I just, I mean, it's just Ted. We don't deserve Ted Lasso.
I got
That's
to
how I
get at
feel.
least 2 moments of why is it that good?
Let me tell you. So Jason Sudeikis created this character for promos. Like it wasn't even a real character, and then they developed it into a TV series. And Ted has a heart of gold. He is this guy who just sees life through the most positive of lenses, like in every scenario. So you are constantly rooting for Ted. So Ted gets recruited by a UK football team to coach their team. As you know, here in the States, our football and European football are two different things.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Ted was coaching American football in the States and then got recruited to coach European football, which is soccer as we know it. And Ted knew nothing about it. So, they set Ted up for the okey doke. And he ended up turning just everyone's lives inside out and around, with his positivity, with his approach. He's just so peculiar, but you just adore him. Like, he's peculiar, but he's stable, but he's so self-aware. He's honest. You just know what you're getting with Ted. And the show is hilarious. Like, honestly, I've never laughed harder. It is a perfect mix of like American and British comedy, but also you will weep. It is so sad too. Like, it is so emotional, and you just find yourself rooting for these characters in ways that you never thought possible. Even the ones that you hate in the beginning, maybe you get to the end and you're like, ugh, I just love all of these people.
All
Like,
right,
so the whole lot of them.
so is this something like we need to have like a watch party for? Because you need,
Yes.
you need
Yes.
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 And it's so funny because so many, I mean, when I tell y'all, like, so many Black people love Ted Lasso, like, it's like out of control. We got like our own little group of just Black people who adore Ted Lasso. It's just amazing.
all right,
It's
all right.
also like I love the fact that he is the lone American in the sea of British. When I say British, I don't mean like excuse me, posh spice. I mean working class British people. And it's so fun to see the accents. And what KB left out is the owner knew that he didn't know, because the whole idea was for the team to fail so that she can, get rid of the team, kind of like Major League. But he ends up being a good soccer coach, and he ends up getting the respect and not only the love of of his team, but of the community. You know what I mean?
So
They
where
You
can,
cannot help, you literally cannot help but love him. And
Yes,
I would
and
be
it's
remiss
like
if I
the
did not
thing
mention
and then
Coach.
she's like, how in the
How?
world is this American, right?
Because he's
She's like
amazing.
asking herself, coming here, and he's like the toast of the ball, you know what I mean? And it's exactly what KB said. It's his goodness, his good heart, his positivity. Also that town is not used to that soccer team winning or being anything. So they're like, you finally have given us something to look forward to give us hope to. So it's a whole thing. What I love too about the show is that they don't try to have them adjust to him. He's having to learn to navigate in that world and in their customs. The creators and everybody understands that soccer football culture in the UA is serious business. So they respect it for what it is, the fans, the culture, the pub culture, and all of that. And first of all, Jason is already funny to begin with. And there are moments where, because he's so funny, where he's really not trying to be funny, but you can't help but laugh. And not only like the personal entanglements. Oh girl, I'm gonna need you to stop going through the soccer team, because you done dated everybody on the team or that's been with the team. So
that's funny.
but it really is I keep
Beautiful.
saying this, and I don't know if you agree, KB. Apple promotes all the shows that we don't like. The shows we do like that become popular, it's because of the people talking about it on Twitter and everything. And I'm always like, we don't care about this other show that's $20 million that y'all keep trying to make us like. We like this. This is what we want to see more of. And I think it's the fans. And then also finally, getting some accolades, like awards, and him winning, that finally had the people at Apple say, well, maybe we should advertise this show a little bit, because it ain't that other show that we are bored to tears about.
so
It's funny
KB,
because I will say this. Oftentimes you're watching Ted Lasso and you don't know where Ted begins and Jason ends. Like, there are oftentimes that you're watching the show and I'm like, this feels like it could be Jason Sudeikis' just regular personality, honestly. And he's just saying these lines, but this is how he really feels, because it is the character has a very similar backstory to his, growing up in Kansas and being from Kansas and kind of doing that. And so sometimes you're just like, I don't know. And then of course, a lot of people know that Jason Sudeikis is a huge hip hop head. And so they like incorporate that into the show as well, into Ted's character. So he like plays a lot of hip hop, but that's just what Jason likes. Like, so, you know, it's just kind of those little nuances that you're like, I don't know, like this might be a little bit of Jason, you know, in here too.
So you were gonna say before Katya took over, which I'm really happy because that means both of you guys
because
like.
I'm so
Hold on,
mad
Katya.
because I keep saying, like, I put it out there. Who's watching this besides me?
Right.
And nobody will respond.
No,
And I'll be like,
no problem. But you were gonna say, KB, I'd be remiss if I don't what?
Oh, if I don't mention Coach Beard. So Coach Beard is the other American that Ted Lasso brings along for the journey. And when I tell you, he actually has the best one-liners of the show, where you like, what kind of life have you been living, Coach Beard? Like, just truly, like, he has lived 1,000 lives, but he'll just say one line and then walk away. And people are like, I'm sorry, what? Did he just reveal that this happened to him in his past life? Like, what is going on? So he truly, that, I mean, like, the comedy is just, it's funny for everyone. I feel like the kids are funny because child, oh, I mean, the kids are hilarious too. Roy is hilarious. You know, there are just people that you will love in the show, and I think it truly is for everyone.
All right. Well, so, you know, maybe I'll talk to you and Katya at some point where you guys rope an apple and we really do a watch party where we have some folks come on and we'll watch an episode or two. So that sounds like something we should try to do. All right, excellent. So Katya, welcome to the show. You already been in the show. You took over my whole Ted Lasso thing. So no, but what are you working on? And is there something like a Ted Lasso that you want to talk about?
well, KB did a great job of hopefully people stop watching that other thing and watch Ted Lasso. I am excited though. Central Park is coming back. I live for Owen and his skinny legs and his beige khaki shorts. I mean, you gotta love someone that loves their job as much as he does, and is poor guy cannot get the support that he needs for his enthusiasm for the park, specifically Central Park. And Leslie is a perfect Owen. So excited about this. But I went from Tribeca. I gave myself 2 days, and I'm doing one of my favorite festivals, which is AFI Docs. But before I wrapped up my chapter, which kind of felt like everything was flowing in, where you're just like, I went from one app to another, is it's a beautiful, beautiful documentary about Gordon Parks. And it was just, his work is so, you could almost just do a silent movie and just play music and just show his pictures and his words. And I'm so glad that they incorporate a lot of his voice, because I'm always a huge fan. I'm always like, is that really his point of view, or is this someone's interpretation?
So don't give it all away, because we're gonna get to.
But there is a part where I was like, he had courage, you know, like.
All right, but don't get that one all the way, because we're gonna talk about that one a little later.
No, but I do want to say that is that, and then what else did I want to say is I hope we're all paying attention to what's going on with Britney Spears. That's the other thing. I don't care if you think Britney's corny. I don't care if you think she can't sing. I don't care about none of that. It is absolutely unforgivable that a 39-year-old woman doesn't have control of her womb. I don't know what it is, and I need some men to explain it to me, what it is with men's obsession with having control, what goes on with our vaginas and our uteruses. And the fact that, you know, birth control is such a personal thing for us as women to choose whether you choose to be on it, what type, whatever. Some people go through trials and tribulations, but the fact that something was inserted into her that she didn't ask for is so like, everything else was already bad. That one stood up for me more than anything. And someone, dear God, I hope this judge brings in someone who is not affiliated, who doesn't get money out of this, to be her advocate. And I'm so glad that she took the courage to speak up, because, you know, a lot of us are looking at her, we're watching her Instagram, and we're not laughing with her. We know something's not right. And finally, she felt the courage to speak up. And it's just really, really sad. And I really hope we all keep her in our prayers. So honestly, that was probably the most shocking thing that I saw this week, especially as a mom. I'm like, where is your mother? Why is she not fighting for you? So
No, that's
where I'm at with it.
thank you for that. I think that's it is shocking with some of the stuff that you hear, particularly about, you know, having to take birth control and who she can date and all that other type of stuff. It really sounds very bizarre. I'm not following it as much, but all the headlines are hitting there, you know, coming out.
Yeah.
So I have heard a little bit about that, and so I'm really glad that you mentioned that. I want to.
I will say, quite frankly,
Go ahead.
it's actually wildly disturbing and disgusting. And the fact that she has no control over her life at 39, like zero control. There's not even, I mean, in anything that she does. So I agree with Katya. Like, you know, I appreciate her courage of being able to discuss it, and finally kind of sharing her truth, because it is wild, like, truly. And no human being deserves that. Like,
We don't do that to people who commit criminal acts. Like once you're out of prison, we let you roam. Like the fact she can't change clothes without somebody being in the room. Like what is going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's some really crazy stuff that's going on, and it's very clear. I do hope that somebody is going to step in here and if she needs help, get her the help that she needs, but definitely, get her away from get her away from some of these people who are doing some of the things that they're doing. So I think that's
one is her father. So
yep. I mean, at 39, you know,
it's okay to cut this tie.
it's totally okay to cut this tie. I'm trying to tell my 22-year-old.
The problem is legally right now, I guess she can't. But
right. That's
the whole issue.
That's the issue.
Her father won't let go. And why? What's Mr. Jamie? What's up?
Yeah, no
Go
doubt.
get a job if you're so. He gets $16,000 a month to do this to his daughter.
Yeah. So I mean, you're saying, hey, they can cut this tie at 39 years old. You can cut this tie. You know, I'm not even joking. I'm telling my 22-year-old, we can cut ties now. I mean, you can step out there and
I just said, okay, now be free.
We good. You know, we'll still give you some support, but you can go on out there and do your thing. So at 39, come on now, come on.
Right, well, like we going on vacation, your mother and I, not us. The family
not we.
We are having this argument in my household right now. Is that we're like Donna and I are talking about going on vacation, and they're like, well, where are we going? No, we are not going anywhere. It's two of us. I don't know if you've heard this, but there's a song called "Just the Two of Us." It takes two to make a thing go right. Yeah, it's two, just two. But anyway, I want to get to before we get to the movies. Because you guys brought up something, a topic each that you like. One of the topics that I want to bring up, which we have not talked about, and it really does relate to film, and it is Darnella Frazier, who won a Pulitzer for filming George Floyd video. This that was one of the best things. She got a Pulitzer citation, and this some time ago, probably about a month ago, for doing so. And I wanted to talk about this for some time because I felt that a lot of times when we're shooting documentaries, and real documentaries, I'm talking about like war documentaries and things of that nature, these people are putting themselves in harm's way. And there's some phenomenal real-time documentary filmmakers. This woman was just going to the store, and she decides to hang in there and film the whole thing. The danger that she put herself in and for putting it out there is just unbelievable, unspeakable. And then the trauma that she went through in trying to do that. When you see what she did on what she said on the witness stand about how she wished she could have done more, how she wished she could have stopped him. She did what she was there to do. She filmed the whole thing, because if we did not have that film, we would not be talking about a lot of the things that we're talking about today. So I just wanted to say that just from a filmmaker's perspective, I am very happy that the Pulsar organization decided to give her a citation as it relates to that.
Yeah, she literally, she was the voice for George. You know what I mean? It is very. Where would we be? And even the videos, we still have people saying,
That's right. No, that's
Yeah,
absolutely right. So yeah,
it's
go ahead, KB.
unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that either of these things had to happen, that she even had to make the choice to film. It's hard because when we see someone going through something, and not as severe as what happened to George Floyd, but even if we see someone on the street being stopped, like I know when, just as women, if we see a woman in a bathroom and something doesn't look right, or we see them, kind of out, stepping back. And so, yeah, Reggie's right. The amount of trauma just in that situation from start to finish, but the fact that she's even carrying a layer of guilt, like for not, being able to do more. It's like the whole
it's
thing is just
survivor's
so
guilt.
very hard to
Yeah.
unpack. Yeah, like
It really shows you though, however, the strength of her to
mhm.
stand there and shoot that. Uh, and the wherewithal. What was going through your brain to say, let me shoot this, the whole thing. Let me not stop. Let me not shoot just part of it. Let me shoot the whole thing. It's just something that's incredible about her to have done that. And I know she got an ultimate recognition from the Pulsar organization, but I felt that as filmmakers, or people who talk about film, that we should talk about her as well. So that's that. All right, so let's get into some movies. And there is like a big movie out. A big movie that people are thinking might save the box office, might save the whole theater organization. And I can't think of the name of this film. Dang, I can't. KB, do you know what film is big, is coming out?
Maybe you're talking about a little small indie film called Fast Nine, F9, the Fast Saga, perhaps. Is
That's
that the
it.
one that you?
That's it.
Yeah.
Tell us what this was about, and tell us what your thoughts are.
So, Fast Nine, we are back with the Fast and the Furious franchise. In this one, Charlize Theron is back as Cypher, and she kind of enlists the help of Jacob, who is Dom's younger brother, who we have not seen before. This is the very first time that we have mentioned a younger brother, seen a younger brother, done anything. And Dom is portrayed by John Cena. And, Dom is coming back from some Jacob, excuse me, is coming back for some revenge on Dom. So, we get a lot of backstory this film about their family, about their actual blood family, because we already know, if you've seen any one of these films, how important family is to Dom. Like, that is at the center of it. And Dom considers his friends and his companions to be family. He's all about, if I can trust you, then you're in the family, which I kind of feel like is a very Vin Diesel thing in his real life. If I could trust you, then be family. But Jacob is on the outs. So an unfortunate event occurs, and we all know that their parents have passed on. And in this film, we get to see how their father passed away. And Jacob really just is pushed out based on that death. That's all I'm gonna say, because I'm not trying to spoil it for y'all, but he is pushed out because of that death. So he is willing and ready to work with Cypher and another individual who has all the money, who's funding this, named Otto. He is willing to work with them because, you know, he hates Dom. That's just the reality. He doesn't hate Mia, you know, because nobody ever hates the sister, but he definitely hates Dom. I mean, he 100% hates Dom. So this for me was exactly what it was going to be. Like, so I feel like, you know, a lot of people are asking about the expectations of this film. And I'm like, I watched this franchise for the cars. I watched this franchise for the high action. I watched this franchise because we're going to do something ridiculous. As y'all have seen in the Fast 9 trailer, they go to space, or they allude to going to space. We saw that in the trailer. They put it in the trailer, which actually was interesting to me. I didn't think that Universal would put that in the trailer because it's kind of like one of the highlights, but maybe they did it because us Fast franchise fans have been like, well, only place they can go next is space. So since that's what we've been talking about, they were like, well, here y'all go. Y'all got space. This is what we're doing. So for me, it was fun because the action is fun, and that's exactly what it needs to be. I feel like, you know, having an additional layer to this family backstory is like, it's whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, we already know how Dom feels about family anyway. So for me, it didn't provide any extra whatever. But I think my biggest point of contention is y'all trying to make me believe that Vin Diesel and John Cena are brothers. Now, if y'all don't go out of your way, I just feel like, listen, I feel like they are constantly listening to what the fans say. And, you know, Vin Diesel has always stated that he's multicultural, right? He has not explicitly said what that means, but he has said that he is of a multicultural background, right? So everyone knows that. Everyone also knows John Cena is white. So y'all up here trying to convince me that this man of color, because, you know, Vin Diesel does identify as a man of color, as a person of color. You gonna convince me that this person of color and John Cena and Mia, played by Jordana Brewster, who is also a white woman, y'all gonna convince me that these three are blood siblings? Like, I'm just like, okay. So I feel like because of that, in the film, they touch on it and it's a lot of laughing. And Helen Mirren's character at one point is like, a man that looks like you. Now, Helen, girl, now, I would have been like, y'all, we're going to have to cut this line because John Cena and Vin Diesel do not look alike. Please. Like, please.
That's funny. That's hilarious. So everybody knows that I have been having a problem with the Fast and Furious franchise for some time because they have moved so far away from the roots of fast cars and street drivers. But what F9 does is it finally acknowledges that it has transitioned from a ragtag team of a car enthusiasts and street drivers to this invincible group of superheroes and superheroines that and doing so really allows the audience to just go along for the ride and stop being backseat drivers. I agree with you, KB. I think what they did is that they figured out, they heard everybody talking about how crazy and outlandish this franchise had become, and they wrote it into the script. They wrote it into the script, talking about how they aren't getting any scratches and bruises and always coming out, because this one actually makes fun of what they do. Now, do I like that? Not particularly, but I like that they did it because at least they let me say, okay, now they're about to go out, they're about to get really outrageous, and I can just sit down instead of say, no, take this turn, take that turn. They do show that they go to the moon in the trailer. So you know they're about to go into some crazy outrageousness. What makes this franchise work are the characters, and they're all back in full effect. Everybody who could come back is back. There are a couple of missing faces, but those two folks couldn't really be there. There are also some special appearances that will make you excited and happy and all. I believe the writers gave the fans what they want. The story doesn't matter. I agree with you, KB. It is blah. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's one time that I think maybe a drop of something was in the side of one eye or something like that, and I was like, "Is that a tear, or did I
you
get?"
You shed a tear in this film?
I don't think so. I'm making a look.
I hope so.
I'm like brotherly love and their family and whatever. So for me, F is for me. F is for like fantastical, for funny, and hopefully for finale.
Oh
Finish.
no, they already announced. They already announced there'll be two more after this.
But that's what I need F to be. I need F to be for finale, because they actually went outrageous on this. It's crazy. I I think that they've done just about everything they can do with this franchise except go back to the roots of what this was really about. Is that now they've gone so crazy, and so that I think they did a good job of giving the fans what they want. But did they do a good job? Did they do a good job of giving me what I want? It was okay. It was okay for me.
But I will say this, and I apologize because I actually did not realize that, and I just looked it up, that Jordana Brewster is half Brazilian, so I apologize. But I still am like, there's no way in my mind that I'm gonna believe that these three are siblings. Like, I mean, now Vin and you know, Dom and Mia a little bit more, but John Cena, like John just came out and I said no.
Oh, jump on it.
You did mention a good point, Reggie. My favorite is back, Han. So like they gave us exactly what we wanted in that trailer when we saw Shadow of Han. They gave me exactly what I wanted in this film when they brought Han back, like, period. So.
And they brought back a couple, I mean, not brought back, they have some new characters, and I think that so hand-to-hand combat is decent, the cars are decent, you got cars, helicopters, planes, trucks, tanks, drones, you got it all. So I believe they did a good job of giving people what they want. They've lost me a long time ago. Katya.
All right, let's be honest. It has no plot. A lot of this don't make no damn sense. For a franchise, since you guys talked about the good parts, I'm going to talk about the stuff that's problematic. For a franchise that really proved to have people of different backgrounds, different religions, color, creed, ages, because, you know, Vin ain't a young bull no more. He getting closer to our age. And to prove that if you have something fun and you have a good script, the movie will make money. You know, it came out of the New York car culture, which is really funny because everything takes place in LA, but it really is based on an article that street racing in New York, which I'm still like, if you're gonna end it, you gotta go to the place that started all of this, right? But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about John Cena playing a Latino. We just did a whole bunch of articles about when representation goes all the way wrong, right? And in that circumstance, it wasn't all the way, it was just a portion of the population was excluded. In this movie, we have a white man pretending to play a Latino. We have a gazillion Latinx actors. And I understand that you wanted to get a name. Heck, throw freaking Ricky Martin or Julio Iglesias in there. I don't care. But the bottom line is that there are people that are this thing and also have a name, right? And also, you don't need another name because you've got enough people come for the franchise. So it isn't like it was missing star power. So to me, that was beyond problematic. We just had this discussion, but everybody's so enamored with all the action that no one is holding Universal's feet to the fire that you hired a white man to play a Latino.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that.
And the fact that I'm kind of glad that, you know, Jordana is half Brazilian. There's a scene in there where she's speaking Portuguese to is it Santos, and he speaks Spanish. The two languages don't intertwine like that. Like either we all speak in Portuguese or we're all speaking Spanish. Like the cultural ignorance in some portions of this is just eludes me. You know what I mean? Where I was just like, was there no one to say, this don't work in real life? It's easy, I will say that, if you speak Portuguese to understand. Go and speak Spanish than the other way around.
But no, nobody understands it. Is that they don't understand it in the franchise. If they're going to go fantastical and do these crazy things, then you know they don't understand it. They don't have anybody in that franchise saying, hey, let's be a little bit more realistic. Because they've gone so far off of any kind of a reality, I think that
It's really crazy
that,
because you
that
have
for them it gives them license to say, yeah, we can speak, we can make two languages speak to each other. We can make I'm sorry, KB, you're saying John Cena and Vin Diesel, we can make them brothers. We could just mix it up and do whatever.
why not? Next thing you know, Hong is a cousin. Since we're going down that road, you know what I mean? But also, it's like,
Well, in Brazil, that could actually happen.
JD Prada to be who is in Mayim's MC, which is a really great show. If you've been,
he is fine.
Who is Latino, right? Who is biracial? You should have had him play the brother, because he actually is half. You know, he is, you know, biracial in terms of like, you know, he's not 100% Latino. But the point still is that you made sure you hired the Latino to be the father to tie the Latinidad amongst the brother, but then you got the adult, I don't know what the younger one is, and nor am I going to look it up, but the point is John Cena ain't Latino. They don't look nothing alike. Like KB said with Jordana, at least you're like, okay, she's Latina. We don't know what bro is, because he's been so ambiguous about it, and maybe one day Dr. Henry Louis Gates will break it down for us, you know what I mean, and we'll get to the crux of it. Obviously he has some black in him, because that ain't a tan, but it's all like, okay, like,
but actually, Katia, JD is Argentinian and El Salvadorian. Okay,
he's one
so right. So that's why I looked at John Cena like.
So is there a thing here?
Who looks and is Latino, who is from LA, right? You got the guy who is the younger Dom, he's Latino, but then I'm watching this movie, and in the back of my mind, it kept disturbing me, right? And then the last scene, I was like, well, throw the whole damn sink away, because these people really don't give a damn about real representation. And this is where I look at the director. I did like seeing some of the other parts of the franchise in this, and it made sense. And I was like, how are they going to do it without it being hokey? I did not like, though, how we got to see Hong again. I felt as though that set, you knew we were on a set. We weren't at, or if it was an actual location, it didn't seem like an actual location. A franchise that has so much money to spare, because they're going to make the money. They already made the money pretty much in Asia. The lack of detail. So you took all these details to have the space scene and to have that whole introduction, but you made his introduction a little hokey. The problem that I have with this franchise is the not paying attention to details, because technically we already know there is no story. It's just whatever, right? It just whatever.
But I think that's it. I think that's the thing, though, Katia, is that why do I need to pay attention to detail when the real thing is, let me throw some action, blow up some stuff, throw in some cars, do that type of thing. I think that they did everything that people want them to do. And these things that we're talking about, which are not trivial, by the way, particularly these things that you're talking about as it relates to representation, I think that the way they look at it is like how a lot of corporations look at the issue you're bringing. Well, we got 2 Black people. We got a couple of mixed race people. We got someone, Asian person. We got 3 women or 4 women. We got white people. We got so if you are going to come at us and talk to us about not having representation, you got to be crazy. You got to be crazy, because we got representation. That's what we all about. And then when we bring some special guests and some other people in there, we got representation out of the yin yang. So who cares about that we are not exact, we're not right or whatever, because what we're really doing is we got the representation, we're bringing everybody together, and we blowing up some stuff. For me, this is not a movie that I would be fast to run out and go see. It's okay. It's all right. I think that KB, you have excited me about Ted Lasso more than I was excited about F9. But I do think that this is a movie that provided the people what they want. It's just not me. So I'm saying go and check it out, because I know if you like this franchise, you'll enjoy it. But it's a mile watch it for me. Katya, mile watch it, big watch it, check it out.
Like if you're a Fast Nine fan, if you're a Fast Nine, excuse me, I'm sorry, I can't even get it out right. If you're a Fast Nine fan, you'll be happy with this. But as a movie, leaves a lot to be desired. And part 10 is going to be, it's up 10 and 11. Part 10 is going to be 2 parts, right? So they're shooting them back to back, like Tyrese told us, and it's going to be one half with a cliffhanger, and then it's going to hopefully tie it all together. But I do hope in part 10 we get attention to detail, Mary's action, and a freaking plot with a kill. Why is it that people think you cannot make an action film with a plot? James Bond does it all the time. We have a real freaking plot, and even Tenet gave us a plot.
Yeah, I just think that they would disagree. I think they would disagree with you, me, and KB on the plot issue. I think because they had the whole flashback throughout the whole film about these 2 brothers and what happened with them, I believe that they think very, very strongly that they gave a actually strong plot. And it actually might have been stronger than some of the other ones or whatever. It just doesn't matter, I think. And the outrageousness of this franchise means that the plot doesn't matter. James Bond has the plot is integral to him finding a woman and getting in and being cool and getting in a car. The plot drives, the James Bond pieces. So it's a kind of watch it for you. KB, your thoughts?
It's a watch it for me, but that's to Katya's point. I'm a fan of the franchise, and I do feel like this film had more of a plot than some of the other ones. I didn't say it was a plot that made sense, or to Reggie's point, that it necessarily mattered, because again, like, I'm cool with the flashbacks. I actually like seeing young Dom and kind of like understanding that. I actually like the actor who portrayed young Dom. I thought that was really good casting. But I thought that was really good casting. But like, child, we already know how Dom is when it comes to family. So, and it's also very predictable. So like, I knew going in that Jacob and Dom would, like eventually have to discuss their issues from the past. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you know what's going to happen. But for me, again, I agree. They gave us as fans what we wanted. So they gave us Han, because literally everyone wanted Han back. And that's exactly what we got, So I'm like, yes, give it to me. They gave us space. Yes, give it to me. Give me more cars, give me more action, give me more theatrics on screen, because that's exactly what I want. I think that their goal every film is just to go bigger and better. So I would recommend you go see it, because it is a good time. It's fun. You always know the music is going to be popping. You always know you're going to see some high quality action and car chases. But to Reggie's point, they have officially let us know, y'all, this is how we make our money. We make our money by going on these missions and trying to stop these bad people. Like, we're essentially superheroes who also love racing. Like, that's really just the merger of what it is. And what we also see is that, like, I feel like in terms of family backstory, the family that Han now has, or has created, I felt like that was the more interesting family story for me in the film. I like that. I want to see more of this. I need more of this, in fact, in the future. Like, I love that. But Dom, Mia, Jacob, y'all gonna be what y'all be. But again, my biggest issue is y'all trying to make me believe that John Cena and Vin Diesel are blood siblings.
Well, with that,
and listen, I know how genetics works, because I'm a whole scientist, and I understand that genes pull from different places. But I also know that when we're talking about John Cena and his background and Vin Diesel and his background, that technically, y'all.
Girl, so we got to get to.
Ask a question, please. When was I the only one when he went to go on the mission? I was like, who's watching these kids?
They mentioned it. They did mention it. They did. Mia mentioned that Brian was watching it.
It took 40 minutes for us to get there.
Yeah,
Mia mentioned that Brian was watching
the kids. That was the first thing I did too.
Yes, because he just peeled off, and I was like, so what happened to your son, honey? Like, what?
Yeah, he did just peel off. All right, so we got to peel off a couple more movies. So that's it for that one. It seems like it's a watch it for all of us, but a real go out as fast and furious as you can from KB. All right. So got another movie out here. It's a documentary. And Katya, you were talking about how you're doing a festival right now. There's nothing but documentaries, one of your favorite genres. So talk about this particular movie.
Well, I am that Mary J. Blige generation girl. I was in college when Mary came out. I remember going down to Tower Records. I know, record stores on South Street. I was in college, and me and Kevin went down there to get the Mary J. Blige because we saw the video on BET and it was playing. The song was playing everywhere. Real Love, and I was like, "Who's this girl?" And it was Uptown. I said, "Well, we got to get it. It's Uptown. It's got to be popping." And no one knew who like Diddy was and all of that. And let me just tell you, this was playing all throughout the dorms, outside, wherever and ever you could hear music. And I have been a Mary fan since the beginning. I also, know her story very well, like her mess with Casey, just everything that she's gone through, her honesty about, she left school really early. So she's always been very, a little insecure about, when she's in business meetings and just overall admitting that she doesn't have the educational range on some of this, but then also seeing her tackle this and say, you know what, I had to relearn some things that I didn't learn when I should have been in school. I love her relationship with her sister. They look just alike, they're like almost like twins. And I keep saying this to people, just because you have a lot of success and you have a lot of money doesn't mean you're happy, because Mary really used her music to process her trauma. And it wasn't until she was practically a whole ass grown woman that she started to address some of the things that she grew up with. Her mother was in a violent relationship. She was been in abusive relationships. We mimic what we see. But overall, I love that we hear it in Mary's voice, because, other people tell stories. People leave stuff out, put their own little thing in. And I really shed a tear when I saw Andre. Andre's not with us anymore, Andre Harrell. But I thought this was a very good job we can't say it's right or wrong because it's Mary's story and Mary's the one telling it. And I am just like immensely proud of her. And Reggie mentioned it a little bit. She's a good actress. What Mary did, I think, was very smart compared to a lot of people. She didn't come out the door into acting with a superstar movie role. She eased her way into it by playing smaller roles. And like a lot of people, we didn't know right away that Mary was in Mudbound. We're watching this really good movie. I think it's one of Dee Reese's best movies. We won't talk about the last outing. We're going to say, she slipped low. And I'm leaning forward and I go, that looks just like Mary J. Blige. And then I'm like, I rewind, and Mary wasn't playing Mary in this. She became the character. It's a very dark story. There's a lot of stuff that happened. And she's a very good actress. You don't ever look at Mary and think you recognize her, but then you go along the journey with her. So I think I'm glad Reggie mentioned that her Oscar nomination, but I really like this. And I feel a person who thought she knew a lot about Mary, I learned some more things. I loved seeing her with her family. And most importantly, I'm happy that Mary is happy with herself. She had a very challenging divorce, and she deserves all the accolades, all the flowers, all the love. And I'm happy to see her happy. That made me like really happy.
So it's really interesting is that the name of this is Mary J. Blige's My Life, and it's her sophomore album. And a lot of people were waiting for that sophomore album, because when you get off of, What's the 411, you're like, okay, that was slamming. We ready for this sophomore album. So I'm with you on this whole issue of when is it coming out? Let me run out and go get it. Where I'm not with you is that I never ever felt Mary from the trauma perspective, because I couldn't identify with that. I felt Mary from the music perspective. The music was just so banging, the grooves were just so good that I just liked the music from a dancing perspective, a club perspective, a listening perspective. The music was hot. So what this documentary did for me is finally help me understand why people loved Mary so much. I've seen Mary maybe 5 or 6 times. She kills it. But I'm in there doing like this, and there are people singing word for word for word for word. They know every freaking lyric, and I'm sitting over there like, I'm just trying to do a couple of moves or whatever. So I think this documentary did a really good job of connecting Mary, the person and the artist, with Mary's fans and why they connect with her so well. The other thing that I think that this did really well is that there were some really good moments in this. There's a moment in this film where you talked about the Andre Harrell one already, so I won't talk about that, but where Mary and Anita are singing together. Now, there's no joke here, KB. I did shed a tear on that. Is that to see them singing together and getting and almost crying themselves, it was such a seminal moment. It was so cool. The other moments were the moments with, and you mentioned this, Katya, is with her family. You mentioned her sister, but with her nephew and the rest of her family. So with Anita Baker, she shares song. With her fans, she shares her story. And then with her family, she shares her struggle. And so it was so interesting. I think they did a good job, but I do think we were cheated. And I want to talk about a couple of places where we were cheated. The first place I think we're cheated is we're going to do a documentary on one album. For real, seriously. So are we going to now get a documentary for every album that you got? Is that we didn't get, so if you're looking for the Mary J. Blige story, you're going to get ish, story-ish, in my opinion. You can get the foundation and all that, but you're going to get all about that story. And there's so much more about Mary J. Blige. I think it's a smart thing that they did here because it's a 25-year-old thing and so on and so forth. So I think it's smart, but I'd be remiss to say, did I want to know more? And do I want to see 2, 3, 4 more documentaries for each one of the albums? I don't, but maybe they'll do that. KB, jump in.
Yeah, so I remember exactly where I was the very first time that I heard Real Love from What's the 411. I was at my godmom's parents' house, and my godmother's niece was playing it on tape in her room. I went in that room. I said, now what is this? I just remembered how the beat made me feel, even as a child, because I was in elementary school. And I remember I said, this is the one. So even now, every time I hear that song, it takes me back to childhood, that memory, because it was just such a feel-good record. And I love My Life too. High key, my favorite Mary album is Share My World, which comes later. But I do love My Life as well. And so it's interesting, the dichotomy of both, because having this documentary, I think, is necessary because My Life really speaks to, Mary's first album was an attempt, I think, to portray an outward happiness of having your first album, if that makes sense. Like having your first album and being in the industry and doing what you wanted to do, what you said you were going to do in order to get out of the circumstances that you were in. This album was more so her, as she says in the documentary, trying to find out and figure out how to love herself, how to forgive herself, how to forgive other people, how to not allow these individuals, because she does talk a little bit about Casey and how both of them being at the height of their careers while they were together, Jodeci was like literally skyrocketing at that time. And, she's skyrocketing at that time, but they didn't have the necessary emotional tools to not only manage kind of the celebrity, but to manage this relationship as well. And so she talks a little bit about, there are a lot of things that Casey did wrong. And she speaks about that and the physical abuse that he put her through. But she also talks about how she didn't love herself enough to leave. because she didn't think that she deserved more, and she didn't think that she deserved better. So even with the amount of fame and even with the amount of money that she had, she still didn't believe that she, as Mary, as a human, deserved more and better for herself. So I really feel like My Life was her way of releasing a lot of the trauma that she had been through, to be able to push her into the fold. And it's not without, to Reggie's point, it is about this one album. And as Mary says in the documentary, it's about the darkest time in her life. But she says, even in the documentary, she was like, I don't want people to think that like after this album, my life was not challenging. She was like, no, it was still challenging. And as we know, even her marriage that comes later is challenging, because we've seen a lot of things in the media about that as well. So it wasn't that, but she said that day she just chose to live. And so I think she kind of alludes to it, but I don't think she actually says it. I think that is, she alludes to being like super high on cocaine one day, and then like seeing clouds and kind of having an experience with God that really made her choose to live. And so she does talk just like briefly about her battle with drug addiction. And I think that was probably her breaking point, where she realized like, I can never do what I'm doing to the lengths that I'm going through right now again, because I won't make it. So it's just so interesting to see her in her element. And something that I love too was seeing Misa in this, because they also both came up in the end. And Misa is someone who is just now honestly getting her fashion flowers, but from the beginning, girl always had super dope style. And everything about Mary, which I like that they put in this documentary, those early outfits when she first came out, those were all Misa's creations. Those all came from her mind, because people wouldn't work with them. And so it's beautiful to see that their friendship still remains intact, and that they still have this dynamic kind of closeness, because they really, their careers really started with each other. And so it's nice to see that they're still there. So yeah, I think it is a really good documentary. I love that it's from Mary's perspective. And I also really love, just from an artistic standpoint, how they have the little girl, the animation, like the animated portion where they have the little girl and then they have the older Mary, and how much that song, like My Life in the Sunshine, it's so incredible. I think that we just don't talk enough about how music really transforms us as human beings. Like, I don't know a single human who is not transformed by some body of work, right? And for Mary, that's, My Life in the Sunshine. That song is what transformed her and really got her to where she's like, this is how I knew I needed something different for my life. And so, yeah, she's had hard times, but I like that at the end, she's like, I choose joy. Like, and it took her a long time to get there, but she's finally choosing herself. And I also like how at the end, because obviously this was before her 50th birthday and when Andre was still alive, but she was like, I can't wait to get into this next decade. I can't wait to get to 50 and cut up. I'm like, yes, girl, because we do not talk enough about how like aging is a beautiful thing. And for her to say, I didn't think I would even make it this far. I didn't anticipate making this far. And she said, quite frankly, I don't think she wanted to, because of how hard her life was and everything and all the trauma that she was dealing with. It's beautiful to see her now embracing that. So the one thing I don't know, because they don't really say in the interview, is we know her parents got divorced, but I don't know what happened with her dad past that. Oh, bless you. I don't know what happened with her dad past that. And she does talk about how that divorce really felt like she lost one of her closest friends. But I don't, it just kind of stops there. And I was curious in the documentary, kind of like what happened, because they spoke of their father in such high regard, her and her sister. And I was like, I don't know what shifted or happened in their relationship after that.
I'm really happy that you brought that up. I'm going to let Katya have the last word, so I'll jump in here. I'm really happy that you brought that up, because while it's from her voice and we say that other people leave things out, they left some stuff out. They left some stuff out, and this was one of those things, and actually a really big thing. And from a man's perspective, I want to understand why that big thing was left out. Is that, okay, if you spoke really highly of him, he's still deep in your heart, then give me a little bit more. But we tend to do that. And again, from a man's perspective, I was very, very disappointed that they didn't tackle that. One of the things
I think maybe Reggie too, to that point, I don't know if there's still some unresolved trauma that she wasn't willing to go in depth on or share, because she did say at one point in the documentary, there are some things that happened that I'm not willing to talk about.
Oh, for sure.
It was like, okay.
And that's, I'm just saying, it's just you have to get there when you get there, but that doesn't mean from the viewer's perspective you're not a little bit disappointed because you're sharing all of this stuff. Then I'm just saying, as a black male, if he was still positive, even if he was abused, what was that? And I wanted to feel that and hear that, but you can only do that when you're there. And if you're not there, you're not there. But it is noticeably, just as you just pointed out, missing. One of the things, the last thing I want to mention that they did a really good job of here is they pay homage to the people who came before her. Is that the music that they listened to with her father? So I'm really glad that you brought that up. She mentioned so many times, Dad played this, Dad played that, and I I don't hate it, but I have a problem when we don't mention that there's some people who influence where I'm going and how I'm walking through this world. And the fact that the My Life song and so many others that they actually played portions of and said, look, I like this type of music. These are things that propel me to sing. I think was important. With that, for me, this is a definite watch it. I think you should definitely check this out. It is enjoyable all throughout. There are questions and all that, but it is a and you get the music and you get her music because she's singing in it as well. So if you're looking for that music, you'll get that as well. So me, this is a definite watch it. Katya, you have the last word on this one.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because here's the thing. Mary's actually one of the few people that work with Puffy and he didn't rob her pockets. Unless there is a whole thing out there that we don't know. And she acknowledges that more than Puffy. My Life had so much of that 70s soul music underlining in there. That is her father's influence on her sound and on her whole repertoire, right? Whether it's the whole song being redone, and I'm with you, Reggie. I get really annoyed when people are like, oh, Mary sang that first. I said, no, this is Mary's version of such and such. I'm gonna need you to go dig in the greats or hit YouTube and find out the original voices. And Mary does, to her defense, gives homage and say, no, this is so and so song. And that's why, she's very gracious to the older generation, the people like the Patti LaBelle's and so forth. And she always, like, when she's on stage with them, she steps back because she understands that's their situation, and that's why they love her so much. And that's why they, protect her. But she's also, the other thing is, she's obviously popular with Black people, but white people love her, especially white people overseas. Like, her records, it sells in certain places that you wouldn't think, like in Ireland, not like London town, but outside of London, like Birmingham and whatever you have there. She's hugely popular because the women are going through similar things. Working class women are dealing with the struggles and how to make ends meet and how to, dealing with men that are challenging and everything. And again, Mary is a woman. If you look at Mary when she first came out, there's an episode on Teen Summit where she's on there with her sister. Her sister used to come with her a lot when she used to make appearances. Mary's quiet. She used to wear glasses, her sunglasses all the time. And then you see a shift where you see Mary's face. Mary's leaning forward. She's speaking with confidence. All of that is a post Mary life. The fact that she did this entire thing and you saw her face and she looked up is a huge step for Mary because she was immensely shy. Used to be like, girl, are we ever going to see your face? Like, every interview, her sister was like right there. Her sister used to also sing backup for her. So it was that security blanket because she was not comfortable with fame. And the other thing too is we got to talk about this, as someone who's covered music a long time, we have a failure on a lot of these A&R people who want to be a part of the story, who want to have their own fame, not understanding your responsibility as an A&R person is to help your client with stepping into fame, how to give interviews, how to navigate that landscape. And I do feel like Mary got shot out of the cannon, a girl from the projects, 19, 20 years old, that had never really left Yonkers. Like, KB, you can speak about this. There are a lot of people who live in these projects in these areas that have never taken a train to Manhattan. I'm not saying to be insulting. I'm saying that's a fact. That's a whole different world. Now you're going from Yonkers, not only to Manhattan, to LA, to DC, to getting on a plane to a whole nother country and culture. It's a whole culture shock. And there's no one she can talk to about this because everybody that she knows is from where she's from. So you have that. And then you have poor coping mechanisms. So the thing I want people to understand is fame doesn't fix that. It just amplifies it, right? It
Yeah.
just amplifies it and puts a bigger microscope. And a lot of people used to call her rude, stuck up. The girl was scared, you know what I mean? And I'm glad.
And she was protected. You know, I think she was scared, but I also think that she was protective. I mean, there's a part in there where she said, "I'm not trying to talk to this white girl.
No,
I know this white girl," and I was feeling that part of the conversation because when we have our roundtables with Africa, we know that many of those roundtables are so much different for the artists. That the way in which the artists feel, we're in the round table and the artist is still sitting on the camera. And we're like, okay, bye. And they're really ready. So I do think that she was scared. I also think that she was not knowledgeable as to how to handle the situation. And I think she was protective. She was like,
Yeah, she also said that though. She said, you know, she didn't feel comfortable if she didn't know you. She was like, I'm not talking to you. Like, she's like, you are not in the inner circle of trust. So I don't feel like I can trust you. So I'm just going to shut down. Like,
and it's also like, I want us, the last piece I'm going to say on this is we need to also do a better job of protecting women artists. You know what I mean? Especially young girls, young Black girls. Again, it goes back to helping them make that adjustment. Again, if you grew up in a world where all your entire interactions with white people was negative, like now you want me to trust all these people that I don't know, that I've never met, that claim that they have my best interests at heart. And I would like to see, and I think that's why her and Misha went this way, because they were similar. She was like, she's a Black woman like me. Well, she's watching her and she's like, she's moving in this world. And they also have the other thing in common of being dealt dirty by men. Because again, Puffy, great producer, not a great partner. So you have all of those things. I think for a lot of Mary fans, or for a lot of younger Mary fans who came in after my life, you know, this is a good way to get to know Mary and how she got to be where she is today. And I have a really good friend who's a huge, when I say huge Mary fan, I'm talking every show, Essence Fest, you name it, everything. And Mary got a toothpaste out, she buying it. She is so excited for this, and I hope that you know all the Mary fans enjoy this, and I wholeheartedly endorse this film, and I love Mary, and I'm glad she's still here, and I'm glad she loves herself.
So that's a watch it for me. That's a watch it for you and KB.
Watch it. 100% watch it. Listen, I'm in the same boat as Reggie. I've seen her probably around 5 times, maybe more, to be quite honest. And I might have forgotten at this point, but you know, I am a big Mary fan. You know, I do think that she has been one of those artists who've done things well, and also, you know, speaking a little bit about that acting too, you know, I actually enjoyed her in Power Book 2 Ghosts. Like, you know, I'm like, okay, Mary, you know, so I'm like, come on, Mary, come on. Her and Method Man have actually transitioned, you know, from music.
Really well.
And I like that they've transitioned together since they came up around the same time. I like that they've transitioned together into this kind of seamlessly. So watch this documentary. You'll get to learn more about Mary, and you'll get to hear directly from her, which, you know, I'm realizing now that, like, Mary doesn't do very much press. Like, it's just now occurring to me because, you know, like being younger, I wasn't really paying attention to that. But now I'm kind of thinking like, oh, she really does it. And so this is an opportunity to kind of hear straight from her. So, yeah.
So thank you for that. We are actually running on time, and I would like to see if I can get a couple of minutes from each of you guys about about a film or something that you saw this week. And actually, I'm gonna start so that because I'm gonna make mine so short so that you guys can kind of get in there and talk about it. And I want to talk about this film that Katya made me so mad about, because here's the deal. Whenever Katya says to me, Reggie, 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 you gotta watch this, I go watch it. I don't even, it's not like I hesitate. I find the time to watch it. But KB, you don't do me like this, so we cool. But Katya, she'll tell me like 10 films that I gotta watch, and I'll go watch them. So I don't, this is one time that I got a film that I know she wants to watch, and she doesn't watch it because of Tribeca. For real? Anyway, it's amazing. So
Reggie said Tribeca like it was like you went to McDonald's. Like you ain't watching because you went to McDonald's. Like
I'm in the backyard, have the sheep out, and it's just me and my neighbors. But go ahead, Reggie, do you?
oh, I'm getting a little carried away here. All right, so the name of the movie is on Netflix, and the name of the movie is Sisters on Track. And it really chronicles the coming of age of the Shepherd sisters. And it's three of them. It's a Ty, a Rain, and Brooke. And they are they are thrust into the national spotlight because they actually win the Junior Olympics and become the sport, at the three of them together, and they're different ages, become the Sports Illustrated Kids of the Year on the front cover and everything. But their story is so interesting because they were homeless. They were living with their mom, they were homeless, and they were going through this track program trying to have some semblance of a life. But what was interesting about this is that the coach, and I'm looking for the name of the coach so that I can make sure that I say her name. But anyway, the coach, what the coach does in this is focuses on education, how to use track to get kids scholarships, not only for college, but for high school, so they can get into the types of high schools they want. So she was unabashedly about education, and the love around these three girls that they had, the mother and everything that she did, the coach and everything that they did. The coach's name is Jean Bell, and it was so moving. It was so sweet. It was so good, and it's so great when we talk about women empowerment to see women reaching back, helping young girls. This is so good. I'm sorry, y'all. I had tears. I actually had tears watching these three young girls move from middle school to high school. We don't get them in college, but we get to see their journey as they're going through all these competitions and just learning all the real things about life. And when I say the real things about life, Coach Jean was sitting them down talking about the reproductive process, but I don't mean some kind of glossed over version. She was getting nitty gritty, how to use a tampon. I mean, saying, look, these girls need to know. So it's kind of similar to what you were saying, Katya, about you wish that these A&R people would help their folks. Oh, Miss Jean was like, we're going to help you all along the way, because they're going to be stuff that nobody's going to talk to you about. And as the coach, I'm going to do it. This is a really good story, coming of age story about these three girls. I think it's a great story to watch with your daughters, with young people, but it's also a great story if you're just an adult and just want to see the triumph and struggle. The last thing I'll say about this is the struggle and triumph. And the last thing I'll say about this one is that Tyler Perry ended up paying their rent so they could get a house. This is known, it's in the trailer, paying their rent for some time so that they didn't have to live in the shelter any longer. And so the mother had to struggle through how, when that was over, she could pay for her own rent and stuff like that. It's a really good story, and it's all about women. I mean, I don't even think there are any guys in this film, if I can remember. It's about girls and women, and I think it's a really, really good film. Thank you, Netflix, for putting this one out there, and I think you guys should watch it. Let me go with you, KB. What you got?
Well, one, I definitely have to watch it. I love seeing little black girls succeed. That's a joy for me. So,
Oh, but
thanks for
you
sharing.
know what, KB? I'm so glad that you said that just came to mind. The Olympic trials are now, and they're
Mhm.
going through the Olympics and all that. This is the timing of this couldn't even be better. This
Right.
is one of those that because of the Olympics, I don't know if they made it during this time, but this is a great film to watch during this time as well, just because track and field doesn't get their due all year round. They're getting their due right now. So this is a great time if you're in the track and field to check this one out. Thank you, KB, for that. Go ahead.
Yes. And shout out to Texas because we're dominating and we're headed to the Olympics in a lot of capacities. These Black women from Texas are headed to the Olympics. Anyway, so something that I watched was Sex Life. So, I mentioned that I did the interviews. They're out now, and the show dropped today on Netflix. So it is billed as a comedy drama. Mostly for me, it's just a messy white drama, which I do adore. Okay, so that's my first point. I should say I do enjoy some messy white drama. This is based on a book called 44 Chapters About Four Men. Now, I did not read this book, didn't know it existed until I started watching this show and started doing my deep dive for the interviews. But baby, so this is the story of a woman. Her name is Billie Connolly. She is having a really tough time in the sense that she used to live this fabulous life in New York City, right? She was going to an Ivy League school, pursuing a graduate degree in psychology. So she's brilliant. Her best friend Sasha is a bold, brilliant Black woman, and I love that they keep that theme throughout the series. Like Sasha is brilliant, and she's gonna let you know. So I'm into that. And she's portrayed by Margaret Odette, and I'm like, shout out to Margaret because she's gonna be a star. And so, like she's already in the business, but I think that this will propel her even further. And so Billie, portrayed by Sarah Shahi, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. And Sarah's been in a number of things. She's in the latest reboot of The L Word that came back. So she's in that, and she's done a number of things. But when I tell you, Billie is wild, honey. So she used to live this fabulous New York life where she is just living free. So it's a very sex positive show. She does what she wants with who she wants, all consensual. And she meets a guy named Brad. And Brad is Australian, and Brad has a lot of money, and Brad is like a little playboy. They meet at a concert because Billie and Sasha are like super music heads. So they're constantly, on the music scene in New York. They meet that way. Adam's an executive, excuse me, not Adam. He's portrayed by Adam DeMose. But Brad is an executive. Things go awry. So Brad is giving her the best sex of her life. And Brad also breaks her heart. Naturally, he's a bad boy. This is what we know him to do. So she meets her now husband, Cooper, right after breaking up with Brad. Cooper is stable. Cooper is also wealthy. Cooper is lovable. Like he is one of those types of guys where I don't need multiple women. He's like, I just need you, Billie. Like I've made this commitment. This is who I want to be with. Let's create a family. They have 2 small children. And that's their family. They're living in the suburbs. It's like that. But Billie is unsettled. And so really the whole show is about Billie reliving all of these passionate moments in her mind about Brad, starting a journal, writing it all down, getting it all out. And then her husband finds his journal and realizes he doesn't know who that he married because apparently my girl Billie, which I'm like, listen, Billie, do you? My girl Billie did not disclose her past discretions to Cooper because she felt like I met you when I met you, and this is the past, and you'll need to know all of the business. Just know that I'm committed to you. And he reads that journal, and whoo, child, things escalate. So when I tell you that it is not a perfect show, there are a lot of things that I was like, child, what? But I didn't ever turn it off. So it's that too. So like there was still the intrigue in the back of my mind. Like, wait a minute, I still need to know what happens. And hold on, we getting messier and messier and messier. When I tell you messy, it's messy.
I was about to say this. So this is really messy, and messy. And if you like messy, watch it. If you don't,
if you don't like messy, you still gonna watch it probably, and you'll still be intrigued because there's so many different layers of things that are happening, and you find out so much about these people. And I'm not gonna give too much away, but just when you think that the past is in the past, maybe the past comes to the present, and you're like, oh snap, what's about to happen with these characters? So it is, and it's not a spoiler because it is definitely on every poster, and I think in the trailer too. It becomes a triangle, maybe it becomes a square, really. I don't know, maybe a diamond. It becomes a lot of things because there's so many people
Wow.
involved, and
You
there's
said a
so much
Rubik's
mess.
Cube. A
Like
Rubik's
so much,
Cube.
yes, and there's so much mess. So, again, there were some parts where I was like, now what is happening? But I will say it is a nighttime soap opera. That is the best way to put it. I think in the way that it's shot, it's very soapy. It's very overly dramatic and very messy. But at the end, I was like, well, y'all can give me a season 2 so I know what's happening. I mean, so,
All right. Okay.
here we are.
All right. You said check this one out. I think I'm going to stay with Ted Lasso. So I'm sorry.
It does have, I should say one caveat. It definitely has a lot of sex. So it's 100% not for children, because there are a lot of steamy and graphic sex scenes that are occurring literally from the first moment, I feel like. So,
Wow.
It definitely is a sex show. It is called Sex Life. It is a sex positive show. I keep reinforcing that. It is all from the female's perspective, and it is definitely, through the lens of a woman. So I think that it's done really well because it takes out the kind of creepy gaziness that sometimes happens in bodies of work when men are behind it. So this is created by a woman. The episodes are directed by women, and you can very much tell because it's also centering her perspective.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, Katya, you got the last word today, because what did you see and what do you want to talk about?
I agree with her, and I'm Team Cooper all the way. Go, Mike. Adam is trash. Anyhow, moving on. The best thing that I saw was the Parks documentary. Just to have that type of courage. That was a part in the documentary. We lean forward when we hear certain things. I'm like, Life Magazine, you sent that man down there to Alabama by himself to get the nitty gritty and what was going on down there. And Gordon, the fact that you went by yourself, honey, that would have been the one time in my life I said, so we don't get the white support blanket because I'm trying to come back from this. There needs to be a return ticket. But he did. And the thing that I hope, I think as journalists, we all have to remember.
I'm sorry, Katya, but what's the name of this? Because I want to.
It's on HBO. It's coming to HBO. Hold on one second. And as I'm looking for it, one of the things I really took away from him as a journalist, is we forget in this era of people wanting to be famous for all the wrong reasons, right? The thing that I love is, here's the name of it. It's called Choice of Weapons, inspired by Gordon Parks.
Okay.
And what I loved about this is he set the mantra and inspiration for other journalists, is that in order for you to be able to tell these stories, you have to earn the trust of your subject. Too often we go in, microphone, camera, boom, 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 ready to be on our agenda. Not understanding is we're telling this, we have the luxury, should I say, to tell the story of people's lives.
That's
and
good.
part of that, too often we're having a one-sided conversation, not a two-sided conversation. And what he basically was saying, especially, he spent months with a gang member, in order to authentically tell the complete story. He couldn't just be like, hey, this is me, I'm with Life Magazine. He had to, especially, even though he's a Black man dealing with another Black man, we both from Harlem, the trust had to be earned. Same thing when he went to talk about, that's what he learned from the farming, to go out there to tell the story about Black farmers. I have to understand who these people are. I have to see them in their environment, maybe live with them, live around them, in order for me to authentically tell this story, not necessarily as a Black man, but to give it context. And I feel like that's the biggest lesson out of this, He never judged. He gave you a complete picture so that you then could come back and learn something, not just automatically be like, and you have to remember, like, Life magazine was what a lot of people like equate time to. Life magazine was really, again, pre internet, was the Bible for America in terms of reporting on human interest stories. So what Gordon did is use his opportunity at Life, that space, to inform a part of America, especially non-Black people, on who we were, our humanity. And I think that's so important because we still have this perception of certain parts of the country who don't interact with Black people, who don't live around Black people. And right now we have so much noise and very few people being able to cut through that noise. So when you do get an opportunity to be in a space that can educate and elevate, we need to use that. You know what I mean? And I don't mean necessarily for you to be the representative of all Black people, but to kind of like use that and turn it and say, this is who we are, not what you've been told. And his story, and also, he wasn't just a great photographer and filmmaker, he wrote his own stories. So for a lot of us who got into this business and we didn't have a team, a lot of Black reporters in small markets are still doing that. You set up your own camera, you do your own mic, you're just sitting at the studio doing your own editing and all of that. You know what I mean? That is where a lot of that comes from. And it's hard and it's not always fun because you got to carry around the equipment, and I have learned to figure out how to do it and get some bags with rollers on it. But what it does do is you don't have anybody in your ear telling you how to tell your story and which way. And again, I got so much more out of this than learning more about the man, but how to do our job with more care, more understanding, and just more love. I wish we got back to trying to get people to saying, you know what, I may have this idea, but I'm willing and I'm hoping to go in there and learn and allow this person to tell their story no matter how uncomfortable I may be.
I
Because it's
love
not
that.
about me.
I love that. I love that. Well, look, we talked about a lot this week. I think, let me say, I think everybody said let's watch all the movies. So the biggest thing I get from our show today is Ted Lasso. So I guess I got to go and watch this show like tomorrow. Maybe I'll watch an episode tonight. Anyway, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic. This is the Real Critic Roundtable, where African American critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. We did all of that today, and we hope to see you guys next time. See you later.